So Hell Let Loose Vietnam had its open beta this weekend, and it's pretty much an open secret that the game is in a pretty bad state just 2 weeks ahead of release. My friends and I who downloaded this beta hoping to have some fun, we all have a ton of hours together in Red Orchestra 2, Rising Storm 1 and 2, Project Reality, Arma, the original Hell Let Loose, so we know what to expect from this type of game. And after about an hour of this dumpster fire, almost 2/3 of that time spent just dicking around in the main menu, we all decided about half an hour into our first match that we were all just going to jump on Rising Storm 2 instead. We ended up playing Rising Storm 2 for about 3 hours that night, and we had a ton of fun. The same cannot be said about Hell Let Loose Vietnam. The first problem I encountered with Hell Let Loose Vietnam was it would crash on startup. I resolved this by putting -DX11 in the launch options, which presumably launches the game in DirectX 11. Once I got into the main menu, I was getting like 30 frames per second on the lowest possible settings with the lowest resolution. In game, it was significantly worse and compounded with lag spikes. For reference, I can run the original Hell Let Loose on high at 60 FPS at 1080p just fine, and I have several hundred hours in that game. But once I got the game running, it didn't actually let me stay in the main menu. It tried to force me into a tutorial.
With your unit members, proximity with teammates nearby.
And I hate when games do that, because the first thing I do when I start up pretty much any game, especially one that's supposed to be fairly complex like this one, is I will configure my settings and especially my keybinds. By far the most annoying bug I had was that my keybinds would not stay in place. If I set my keybinds as soon as I left that screen after hitting apply, the game would just overwrite them. It's pretty incredible that a basic feature like binding your keys was not implemented properly this late into development. Getting into a server was a frustrating experience. At one point there was a server with 80 of 100 players, but it kept telling me that the server queue was full. The server queue is only 6 players, by the way, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of having a queue, because you have to constantly click join to get into the queue. There also wasn't any sort of easy way to spam spacebar or enter or set up an auto clicker in one spot to do this, because you had to move the mouse back and forth to click join and then dismiss the pop-up saying the queue was full. Once you're in the game, you may run into the problem that my friend had where all the squads were locked or full. In order to spawn in and play the game, you have to be in a squad. In the original Hell Let Loose, that's not a problem. You can just make a squad and be a squad leader to spawn in. Well, in order to make a squad and be a squad leader, you have to complete not only the first tutorial, but an additional squad leader tutorial where a British man tells you how to use a computer for the first time.
You can't make a squad until you finish Not only do you finish the first tutorial, but you have to do a second tutorial.
So, say you jump through all these hoops, finally you get into a server, finally you get into a squad, finally you spawn in, then you're met with the fundamental problem with the gameplay. Visibility. The map in this open beta simply has way too much vegetation to the detriment of the gameplay. Basically, everyone just ended up crawling around prone the entire match, which is not fun and not reflective of the Vietnam War, of course. It also made it very difficult to spot and track enemies through the foliage. The lighting was also way too bright and vibrant, which contributed to that lack of visibility. My friend joked and said it looked like Elden Ring with how golden everything was. This is a classic case of video game developers trying to make their maps look pretty before trying to make a fun map to fight on.
The designer will come in and be like, this is gorgeous, but this is an absolutely awful space to fight bad guys in. This space needs to be fun before it's pretty.
Not being able to see your enemies, losing sight of your enemies after one shot, and everyone just crawling around in the undergrowth is probably the least fun gameplay possible. The game also has a 3D strategic map versus the paper map from the original Hell Let Loose, and that sounds cool in theory, but it's just so much more resource intensive for what you get out of it that I would rather not have it. In a game like this, you're going to be constantly opening up your map to not only orient yourself, but you're also needing to see how the battle is progressing and where you need to move. You need it to be fast and immediately readable. Of course, on my computer, every time I open the map, it caused a major lag spike, which is simply unacceptable. So yeah, we basically played like less than an hour of Hell Let Loose Vietnam and then spent the rest of the night playing Rising Storm 2. And it's really incredible just how much better Rising Storm 2 is despite being almost 10 years old. For one, after several years of not playing the game, when I downloaded it from Steam and installed it, it remembered every single one of my key bindings, my settings, and my mouse sensitivity from years ago with no problem. The game also runs a whole lot better than Hell Let Loose Vietnam, which is something that confounds me with modern video games. How do these new games on the absolute lowest settings look worse than an Unreal Engine 3 game but run 10 times worse? Another thing is, once we got into a server, it was very easy for our squad to select the same team and get into the same squad. And unlike Hell Let Loose, you didn't have to die to change squads, and you can be in the squad leader role as any of the individual roles. This is actually one of my biggest criticisms I have with Hell Let Loose. If I didn't go squad leader or didn't go commander, our team would pretty much always lose. But that meant I basically only ever got to play the squad leader role, unless I was playing with some of my other friends and they could squad lead. In Rising Storm 2, you don't have that problem. You can be a squad leader with a machine gun. You can be a flamethrower and be a squad leader. And depending on if you're defending or attacking and what team you're on, it can be really useful to have your squad leader be a more stationary role like machine gunner or a more offensive role like scout. The principal way that Rising Storm 2 handles the asymmetry of the two sides is the NVA or VC gets squad tunnels, which the squad leader can build and the whole squad can spawn on. That allows the Vietnamese squad leader to be more aggressive, whereas the American squad leader acts as a mobile spawn point, which means staying alive is a lot more important. Both sides also get unique commander abilities, like the NVA having an ambush ability, which can spawn in the entire team on the commander, or the Americans having napalm strikes, which not only have an initial kill area, they kind of linger around and act as area denial. The guns are unique across both sides, of course, and the way the guns operate in the Red Orchestra and Rising Storm series is really the best balance between realism and fun that I've seen in any game.
Hey, Reddit.
They have just the right amount of weight, just the right amount of recoil, just the right amount of accuracy, and the models are extremely accurate, even down to being able to zero the weapons for different yardages. My favorite weapon in Rising Storm 2 has to be the M79 grenade launcher. There's something so satisfying about making a snapshot and dropping a grenade on someone, especially at distance. I spent probably half the night playing with an M79 grenade launcher. The best part about Rising Storm 2, however, has to be the maps and the game modes. The main game mode has you attacking or defending points on the map in order, so it forces the whole server to fight over a narrow stretch of the map on 1 or 2 points. The maps themselves vary greatly, from urban maps like Hue City to rice fields, rubber farms, and tunnels in Cu Chi, with most of the maps having a combination of urban areas and vegetated areas. The vegetated areas are never so obscuring that it makes it a chore to spot and track enemies, and many maps have only a few obvious vegetated areas that aren't difficult for you to frag or flamethrower if you think someone's hiding in there.
To your left, Jared. Oh.
We did it, Reddit. Oh fuck, I just saw you get annihilated in front of me.
Our squad was so good at one point, we had like triple the amount of score that the second place squad had. In Rising Storm 2, a few good players can win the game for the entire team without it feeling like a chore, because you do it by getting on the point, killing any enemies that enter the point, and just being good at the game. In Hell Let Loose, and by extension Hell Let Loose Vietnam, you are almost entirely at the mercy of which team is slightly less terrible than the other. If you have no competent squad leaders on your team, you'll have no place to spawn that doesn't take several minutes to get to the front line, and you will lose. So for me, that meant basically half my games involved being squad leader or commander, spawning in, flanking on foot or with a supply truck, and building garrisons. And I promise you, that is not engaging gameplay. This is why Rising Storm 2, Red Orchestra 2, and Rising Storm are just my favorite games in this genre, because it cuts out all of these stupid gameplay concepts that are supposed to encourage teamwork, but basically end up with a few competent players having to bear the burden of the entire team, and they're doing menial tasks like building spawn points and placing down garrisons. In Rising Storm 2, carrying your team means you're on the point in the middle of the action, getting several times as many kills as the next best player on your team. Playing this game again was some of the most fun playing games I've had in years, and hopefully you can get a sense of that in these clips that I'm showing. If you haven't played Rising Storm 2 or Red Orchestra 2 and Rising Storm 1, I really recommend giving it a try. It goes on sale pretty much every Steam sale, and there are always a few populated servers at any given time. Anyways, I know that video games aren't what most of my audience is into, but Hell Let Loose Vietnam disappointed me so much that I just had to make a video talking about it, especially after the whiplash I had in the level of fun going from Hell Let Loose Vietnam to Rising Storm 2 Vietnam in the same night. So thank you all for watching. Thank you especially to my channel members for supporting the channel directly. Have a great day, and I'll have more shooting and gun videos out soon. Thank you. Bye.
Be like, what's wrong with the wing? Ah!